Hi everyone, Joseph Tartaglia for Philadelphia Mayor, and this is a poll request video. And I've been putting this one off for about a week because it's kind of mind-numbing, so let's just get into this. So this video is about Woke Kindergarten and their founder, Akira.
They spent 250 grand of COVID cash on Woke Kindergarten. What is Woke Kindergarten? Sounds a little something like this.
No Donald Trump! No Donald Trump! No Donald Trump! No Donald Trump!
Now this part's interesting. It seems like they have some sort of simulated protest for the kindergartners. I don't know the context of this, so I don't really know what's going on. It certainly is strange, but what's stranger is his reaction to this.
2/3 of the kids at the school don't even speak English as their first language.
Is there something I'm missing? Like, are they teaching them a different language? So what you're saying is that their native language is in English? I don't see where this correlates.
But don't worry, they're learning how to dismantle whiteness. Here's the founder of Woke Kindergarten.
Yes, everyone, the rumors are true. I am anti-Israel. I am pro-Palestine. And I am 100% 10 toes down anti-Israel. I believe Israel has no right to exist. I believe the United States has no right to exist.
See, Akira, that doesn't really make much sense. You can't
I believe the United States has no right to exist.
and still be
Pro-Palestine.
That's because I assume that the reason why you think the United States and Israel doesn't have a right to exist is based on how they were established. We should all know at this point that the United States was established by British colonists who felt they were being oppressed by a government. And we can all agree that there were a lot of unethical things that happened to indigenous people as well as people of color. So I would assume that's the reason why you believe the United States has no right to exist. And the United States are the ones who created Israel, so obviously you don't think that Israel should exist either. And I think it's fair to say that you might also agree that England doesn't have the right to exist either, since they're the ones who created the United States that created Israel. But do you know of any other countries that England created? There's actually another one I want to bring up right now. You might have heard of it. It's called Palestine. So if you think the United States and Israel shouldn't exist based off of that standard, then you're also saying,
I believe Palestine has no right to exist.
but obviously that's not the case because you made it clear that you are pro-Palestine. You also made it clear that you don't think the United States has the right to exist. You don't think that your own woke kindergarten program has the right to exist. Unless you think that that deserves to exist outside the realm of the United States, but what country's providing the money for that program?
White supremacy destroys for the sake of destruction. Abolition destroys for the sake of creation.
Oh God, so this is what Jesse Waters meant when he said the kids are...
Learning how to dismantle whiteness.
Are you for real, Jesse Waters? No, are you for real? Like, out of all the things you could have said about this, like, the Israel and the United States thing was kind of dumb, but, like, you're going to really disagree with fighting against white supremacy and try to play it off like they're fighting against whiteness? You're pretty much implying that white supremacy is what defines whiteness, whatever that means anyway. So, what's the big deal? You're saying that like it's a negative thing fighting against white supremacy. Like, are you a white supremacist? Like, I know you're not a white supremacist, you're a propagandist, but like, who are you appealing to? Their definition of white supremacy being something that destroys for the sake of destroying is already a dumb description. Like, wouldn't they be destroying for the sake of their race? Whether you agree with that statement or not, wouldn't that be the reason they're destroying? To preserve their race for whatever arbitrary brainwashed reason? Oh, and another thing, Akia, you're not even going to give, like, the real reason why white supremacy is strong? There's no way you're going to be able to abolish it this way anyway. Back to you, Jesse. You could have turned their idea of abolition against them, their double standard of abolition right against them. You could have went with that. You could have been like, what about the abolition of woke kindergarten? And then they wouldn't have anything to say. But no, you decided to say that anyway, because you know that would get a rise out of people.
We are not the same. Y'all are the demons. Y'all are the villains. We've been trying to end y'all. Get free.
So that video just kind of cuts off there. I got it off of Instagram. Luckily, I got another segment with more information and details. So let's get into it.
Now what they're doing, these kindergartners out in the Bay Area, of course, near San Francisco, is they're bringing in some lunatic who goes by they, of course, and calls herself an abolitionist early educator.
Just a small disclaimer, there's going to be a lot of misgendering on purpose, so just be aware. And again, they felt it necessary to let us know that the kids might not speak English as their first language.
Like English is their second language, 2/3 of them, okay? She wants them to consider, quote, wonderings, including the following. These are 5-year-olds. If the U.S. defunded the Israeli military, how could this money be used to rebuild Palestine?
Doesn't that seem a bit complicated for a kindergartner? Like they're still learning the concept of having enough money for something, let alone taking the funds from something and then funding something else with those funds. Then explaining that the original funds were used to cause the damage that we now have to fix by shifting that original fund to fix it. I'm not exactly sure what this is supposed to teach. If it's a math lesson, it's too complicated for kindergartners and it's pointless to tell them. If it's a moral lesson, well, kids don't really understand morals. If you're trying to show them the cognitive dissonance, they're not going to understand that. What they're going to see is that with a fund, you could destroy things as long as you use that same fund to fix it later. So if your moral lesson is that, then you're justifying war with money. And I'm sure that's not the point you're trying to make, but to a kindergartner who knows almost nothing about global politics, that's what could possibly be put in their mind.
The website offers Lil Comrade Convos, or positing a world for the children to consider without police, money, or landlords.
I don't think children that age actually understand the needs of money and police and landlords and stuff like that. They might know what they are, but I don't think they understand, like, the gravity of what those mean. You would have to first teach them the significance of all those things and then have them understand that to a full extent before even grasping the idea of not having it. Because a child that age already has the concept of not having that. You would have to then teach them that and then take that away right away. And that's just impossible for someone that age and that little bit of time with that kind of explanation.
They offer the woke word of the day, including strike, ceasefire, and protest, offering students a language of the resistance to introduce them to liberatory vocabulary.
If there's one thing you don't have to teach a human being to be, it's rebellious. Humans are naturally rebellious, especially at a young age. I don't think we would have to teach children to be more rebellious towards people. I think it's important at a young age to understand how to be civil so you know how to work in a society. I understand that there are corruptions in our society. However, you should teach children to be civil. Since being rebellious is the road of less resistance, you don't really have to teach anyone to be that. I don't think there's anything wrong with teaching kids vocabulary words or what they mean, but the context of this means nothing. You're just going to make kids even more rebellious than they are, and it's kind of pointless and could be dangerous.
Hitting new lows on English and math scores. Less than 4% of the students are proficient in math. Under 12% are proficient in English.
I mean, the math I understand because they're basically giving them global politics, economy questions. You haven't gotten the message at this point that maybe that they're speaking Spanish or something as their first language and that English might be a little bit harder for them. Maybe there should be an exception. Maybe you're in America, which is a Spanish name. In California, which is a Spanish name. In San Francisco, which is a Spanish name. And you're confused on why their first language isn't English. And then that's a problem because they're failing English classes when learning 2 languages is already hard as is. How about you test them in Spanish then? Is it because you don't know Spanish?
She previously made headlines for an audiobook saying children could use tree as a pronoun. So she's a they, and your kid could be a tree if only he can find his way into her class. And she, of course, has a graduate degree from, wait for it, Columbia University.
I mean, at this point, it doesn't really matter what anyone tells them in this class because they're all speaking Spanish anyway and they're teaching in English. So to tell someone they're a tree as a pronoun is whatever at this point. Here's my main concern. I can forgive everything. Everything.
They spent $250,000.
And it's $120,000 a year.
Except for the fact that it's like $100,000 to $200,000 a year. I could have done all this for $10 and a piece of paper. What are you talking about? Nah, but for real, it cost me $2,000 tops if I was in charge of this program.